club atmosphere is as strong as it's ever been, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to be as into it and bring their cars out and interact with other car guys. Some guys just like to go in their garage or their collection and rub them with a diaper and look at what they've accomplished. And other guys want to get out there and run them and talk about them with other guys who are like-minded. So I don't know if there's been a shift in the attitude of club membership, but all I know is every time I get an email from the Road Kings, it's like, a lot of activities going on. They have their shows every year. So I think Road Kings is a good little example of the industry of the club scene being very strong.
Chris sounding like a new dad with the whole diaper analogy. Thank you for that one.
There you go. Yeah. Well, what we think.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Talking About Cars with Randy Kerdoon, a podcast featuring the one, the only Hot Rod Bob Beck. Thanks for joining us, guys. Since everybody has a car story. Now, you may get the feeling we have guests today. You are absolutely correct. Because right here on the show, the first auction of the schedule for the 2025 season is underway. And it will be, of course, these guys, Mecum, the Kissimmee Show, always a favorite. And there they are, friends of the show, Scott Hoke and Chris Jacobs. Thank you, guys.
And I'm proud to say we're starting our 18th season of Mecum on television this week.
Wow.
Kissimmee telecast. But yeah, it's always been a team effort from day one. And believe it or not, the first year, Bill wasn't even with us. He didn't join us until 2009. So, but it's always been that way. It's always been just people like us, people talking about cars. And by the way, speaking of,
I heard that before. Yeah, go ahead.
Cars, I'm very proud to note, and maybe you guys didn't even realize this, Big R. This is episode 327 for you guys.
Oh, nice number.
Very cool.
Yes, very nice. Funny how that works out. In fact, you're absolutely correct. 327. Yes. Who knows?
Yeah, Randy, whenever we travel for the Mecum shows, we stay in hotels, obviously. And I always know it's going to be a good week when I get a room number that corresponds with one of my favorite engines. If I'm in room 440 or if I'm in room 426 or 429 or 327, I know it's going to be a good week.
Yep.
That's a smart way to look at it. I think that a little gives you a little bit of insight. Of course, Chris, great to see you too. And of course, belated congratulations. You're a dad now.
Yes,
schedule
indeed.
keeping you busy. Are you working out like every day to keep up the energy?
I'm trying to, man. I mean, the gym is both my sanctuary and my necessity. But yeah, Scarlett is almost 3 years old. She'll be 3 in March when, time marches on. So you got to keep up.
That's great.
How has she changed your life? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I realize that all the cliches are true about being a dad. You couldn't love anything more. You love her more every day. Your life is no longer yours. I watch where I step now because I've stepped on too many little pieces of toys and hobbled around the rest of the day. So I'm very aware of where I'm stepping. I do a lot of cleaning up. A lot of strange liquids show up in their various forms. So it's changed my life in so many ways.
Very good. Of course, we've had an opportunity to talk about you guys being on the show, and I'm curious, and I'm sure this was with you, Chris, anytime on any broadcast you've been on, but especially these auctions. How much information do you have to study to get ready for a show? And I don't know if you have one handy, but do you get one of those like notebooks full of stuff? I mean, how thick is that thing? Do you happen to have?
Well, I do. This is what I've used for the past 10 plus years now. I mean, the first entries in this book right here are from 2015. January 12th, 2015. So I carry this with me, and there's notes in here. There's production meeting agendas. This is basically my auction kind of journal / Bible. But to answer your question, Randy, it's kind of 3-part. I mean, it's one, I rely on the knowledge that I have just at my fingertips, kind of that macro knowledge. And secondly is the knowledge that I'm giving to the viewer during the auction. if I don't know something about a particular car, what I like to do when I'm previewing a car is give the audience a tidbit that they might not know about the car rather than just the straight up specs. So I rely a lot on Google and Wikipedia. So when I'm preparing to do a preview, I'll do a quick Google of the car, see if there's anything, a tidbit that I didn't know or maybe the audience doesn't know, and try to throw that into my previews. And then the third version is just what you kind of get on the fly. Maybe the owner of the car is standing there, or maybe the particular potential buyer is standing there, and I'll get a little interesting tidbit from them of why they're selling the car, or why they want to buy the car. So it's really a kind of a very nebulous, free-flowing kind of thing when it comes to my knowledge. But this book right here has a lot of facts and figures and production numbers, and I reread in this book a lot of times to just kind of refresh myself on the macro information when I'm heading into an auction.
Do you ever encounter a situation where a potential seller buyer situation doesn't go quite as seller planned?
Oh, well, all the time. I mean, nothing ever goes seller planned unless they get more than they were expecting for the car, because everybody thinks that their car is worth top dollar. But it doesn't always work out that way, have we seen. But yeah, there's foibles, but Mecum is so good at customer service and making sure to cater to the seller as best they can, because essentially that's their customer. And so Mecum just does an amazing job. And if you watch during the telecast, a lot of times, we have Frank and Dana mic'd up, and we have the bidder assistants mic'd up too. So you can really get a sense of that insider interaction with the potential buyer and with the potential seller when they're negotiating with him to remove the reserve.
I can't sell it for that. And I'll pay the dues. I can't sell it for that. I got to get a bigger truck. Big truck. I got to get a lot bigger truck if I start doing that. 66,000 and the reserve is off. 60. I thought you was running down there and put a sticker on. I was coming ready to tackle you.
It's an amazing kind of dance that they do with their customers, both the buyers and the sellers.
I find that part fascinating, because all of a sudden you're kind of behind the curtain as they're talking, and here's the guy saying, no, I want this. And Dana's going, this is this. And I think we could do this. And because you're basically doing a balancing act in that situation.
You really are. And it all happens in sometimes under 2 minutes. And, both sides have an idea of what they want to see, what they want to get from the car, how they want it to play out. And there's a lot of give and take, and you see that. And a lot of what Chris was talking about with customer service is right there on the auction block in plain view and for everybody to see. But a lot of that takes place well before the auction even happens, and then after the auction is over, after that car crosses the block. And, I get this all the time. Why should I take my car to Mecum versus anybody else? And my first response is always that Mecum takes care of their customers, because it makes sense to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in business. If we were, running a sketchy deal all the time, nobody would want to bring their cars there. Mm-hmm. And, you see that every single time we go out, hundreds and sometimes thousands, especially in the case of Kissimmee, 4,500 cars. That's a lot. That's why we're a collector car auction.
Do you have any way of assisting a customer? Someone comes in, they've got a Yugo, and they think it's $100,000 vehicle. Do you have any way of working with them to explain reality?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question, Bob, because a lot of times people have maybe a sentimental connection to the car, or they've had it forever, or they bought it from another guy, and maybe somebody at the car show told them that this car's worth $1 gazillion. But that's when the consignment agent really steps in and says, look, we need to come to a reasonable price, a reasonable estimate on what this car might be worth. And some guys still will just dig in, and they will not budge from their number. And You know, how that plays out when the car crosses the auction block is kind of up in the air. But yeah, absolutely. We want to be realistic about what a car is worth long before we decide I mean, Mecum and the consignor together, long before we decide what's the reserve going to be, and if there is going to be a reserve. If you sell it at no reserve, that's a completely different ball game.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Chris, I remember we had talked to Joe Zoper when we were at the PRI a couple of weeks ago, and he had dropped a little wisdom on us on many things, as Joe does. But he brought up the fact that, and we had forgotten about this, that you were like originally going to weren't you in the pilot for Garage Squad?
I was, yeah. The Motor Trend guys at the time, it was Velocity, but the Motor Trend guys wanted to put me on the show. The only caveat was that I would have had to move back to Chicago, which is my hometown. And I feel like I've put in my time living in Chicago. You know, it's only so many harsh winters you can take.
Yeah.
So I
that.
deferred. But yeah, I did do the pilot for them. It turned out to be a fantastic, successful show. Very happy for Joe and all of the guys that were on the show. I was slated to do Garage Squad, but then they ended up bringing back Overhauling again for another couple seasons. So, you know, it all worked out in the end and for the best for all parties.
I wasn't sure if that was the show that you left for, or maybe it was a Long Lost Family or that kind of thing. By the way,
well, Long Lost Family, I did concurrently to Overhauling. So thank you for bringing that up. By the way, I'm very proud of that show. A lot of people at car shows come up to me and they say, "Hey, we really love you on Overhauling and the auction shows that you do." But my wife and I watch Long Lost Family, and we just really love that show. So if you've never seen it before and you need a good cry, definitely check out Long Lost Family. If you don't cry during the show, you are officially a robot.
Oh, yeah. No, he's right. He's right. In fact, I worked at one time with Lisa Joyner at a Fox station in LA many moons ago. So, I mean, she's really good. You were really good. Although it's funny, when I first started watching it, my wife goes, that guy looks like the guy from Overhauling. Is that? And I say, it's just his twin brother. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, it's an easy way to keep it straight. If I'm wearing a hat, it's a car show. If I don't have a hat on, it's a family show.
Exactly.
So that's the easy way to keep it straight.
So how many?
He's got a T-shirt, right, Chris, that says, "Yeah, I'm that guy."
Yes. To answer the question that I get more often than not.
Yeah.
Chris probably has. You probably have a guest house behind the house there in Southern California that has only T-shirts and all of your T-shirts, right?
Yes, between my shirts and my hats, I have many stacks of them. And shout out to Blip Shift, who supplies me with my automotive T-shirts.
Nice.
It's a cool site that does a new design every day, and they only make as many as people order. So some are rare, some are more popular, but I like to wear a different Blip Shift T-shirt every Mecum auction.
And I'll get a couple strokes next time we play golf, just because I set you up for that.
There you go. You got it.
I mean, just mentioning it here has got to be worth a free T-shirt or two. Come on.
Oh, man, for sure.
We've worked together long enough. I knew he was going to go there. So that was
Well, I had
Thank you for teeing me up. No pun intended.
I had it right here. The question about how many hats do you have, and is there a closet that you specify just for T-shirts? So there we go.
Yes. Yep. There's actually about 4 shelves in my closet that are dedicated, and I've got them organized into automotive shirts, golf shirts, and everything else. And then downstairs is my hat closet, which probably has about 200-300 hats in there.
Absolutely.
I will say, I'm a hat guy as well. However, I obviously that's not part of my look, and I don't know how Chris ever started for you, but I love to get ball caps from all, like Major League Baseball caps from all the cities we go to, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, et cetera, and of course Chicago when we were up there. But my hat collection is nowhere near several hundred yet. I would be in big trouble with that.
I was just looking up here where I happen to have a few sports hats myself, including one I think everybody needs, anybody who's a hat aficionado, a Montreal Expos hat.
There you go. Yes.
And they still
Felipe
sell them.
Alou.
Oh, there we go.
I like it. Yeah.
About that.
Wow.
Well, actually, I've worn this before in Dallas and Houston, and people confuse me with Matt Morveck, one of our auctioneers. They think we're one and the same. So
this is the first time I think I've ever seen him with a hat. Okay, well, this. Who knows?
I was going to say,
breaking news.
Put hats on?
You have hats, Bob?
I have hats. I've got 2 or 3.
God, here we go.
I've got the hats. I don't wear them though, and I should.
And Bob was flashing his Road Kings hat.
Yes, I was.
That's true. And I was just looking. I thought I had something here, but I think I moved it. I have coffee cups all over the place.
This is an old one because this was the club's 50th anniversary.
Oh, that's good.
2001.
That's 23 years ago. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, got a few sports hats around, but
I've got a current one, but I don't even wear that.
Okay, let me get the sports question in, and then we'll move on to cars. Being a Cubs fan, your reaction, Chris, to Cody Bellinger going to the Yankees?
To me, it was definitely needed, necessary to shed his salary.
Okay.
I think he was great. The couple of years he was on the team, fantastic. But getting Turner from the Astros is just huge. I'm very, very excited about him coming to the team. Hopefully we can extend him.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that Ricketts family needs to open up the purse strings a little bit more, as we've seen with the Mets, what they're doing now, what the Yankees have always done, and what the Dodgers have done. You can't win a championship by being frugal. So we need some more pitching. I'm hoping Matt Shaw is going to come up and play a really solid third base. And if he does, we have a pretty good lineup. I think we need one more bat in there and a couple more pitchers, and we'll be in good shape. But I'm the eternal Cubs optimist.
Yeah,
it's January right now. I'm always excited about the Cubs in January.
Yeah.
I'm always excited about the Bears in June.
Okay.
So,
all right. Yeah.
Dumpster fire the Bears season has turned into.
Yes.
But, as we like to say in Chicago, just wait until next year.
Uh-huh. And
there you go.
And, of course, you, Scott, how about those Indiana Fever?
Oh, the Fever, that team has taken the city by storm, especially obviously with the arrival of Caitlin Clark, and now the return of Stephanie White as their head coach, who played at Purdue and spent some time out in Connecticut. Terrific coach, amazing player. I covered her when she was in high school, believe it or not. But I will say, so those games, they sell out downtown at Gainbridge Fieldhouse here in Indianapolis. And so, who knows what this season is going to bring, but it'll be fantastic to watch and hopefully see them get back to the playoffs again. I will say a word about the Colts, because we were talking about football, complete disarray. Absolutely. Pat McAfee even has said that he is not renewing his season tickets.
Really?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Public. Oh, yeah, he went off on them.
And he's exactly right. The Colts are they've been looking for Anthony Richardson, in my opinion, to be another Patrick Mahomes. I got news for you guys.
No.
Not another Patrick Mahomes.
No.
Aside from the Peyton Manning years,
mm-hmm.
aside from those few years with Andrew Luck, ever since the Colts moved to Indianapolis in 1984, it has been an absolute disaster at the quarterback spot.
Mm-hmm.
By and large, there's always been a quarterback issue, there's never been stability there, other than when Peyton Manning was there, and for the few short years before Andrew Luck got beat up enough that he decided to retire.
See, this
Peyton
is why
Peyton Manning, who won the Super Bowl with the Colts against my Chicago Bears. And I have to do a quick cleanup, Randy. I think I might have said Turner from the Astros. It's actually Kyle Tucker who we got from the Astros.
Right.
Just wanted to make that correction.
I was going to get to that. By the way, this is what happens when you watch the program here. You get these guys talking about all sorts of stuff. You want to hear them talk about cars. That's why you watch the show. And
you
go ahead.
You want to hear an interesting little tidbit about the Indy 500 museum?
Sure.
Yeah.
So for a long, long time in the basement of the Indy Museum, lost amongst the other cars in there, was the last Ferrari to win Le Mans in 1965 until Ferrari won it just the last couple of years. It was just stuck down there. It was a Ferrari 250 LM that was part of the NART team.
Okay.
And it was stuck in the basement of the Indy 500 Museum. And just kind of people passed by it just wondering, what's this Le Mans car doing? And right next to it was the Kremer Porsche 935 that the Whittington brothers won with in 1979. So those two Le Mans winners were just side by side, stuffed in the basement display of the Indianapolis 500 Museum. And if you ever want to hear a super interesting story, two of them actually, about each one of those cars, go to VinWiki and listen to John Ficarra tell the story about those cars, because it's just incredible the way that Ferrari had to manipulate while the race was going on to get that Ferrari NART car to kind of come under the banner of the Ferrari team so they could claim victory in the 1965 Le Mans. And then the Whittington brothers is one of the most interesting stories in all of automotive. Indianapolis 500, Le Mans, the Whittington brothers, there's three of them. And it's super fascinating the way that these guys got into racing, their success in racing, in spite of who they were and what the shenanigans they were up to behind the scenes. So I'll just leave you with that little teaser. If you want a really good automotive story.
I love the shenanigans. That kind of can lead to all sorts of mischievous stuff.
Illegal activities.
The
shenanigans that they were up to. And that car is now owned by renowned and legendary collector Bruce Myers. The story behind that 1979 Le Mans winner is fascinating. And those two cars, the 1965 winner and the 79 winner, stayed in the basement of the Indianapolis 500 Museum for years and years and years next to each other, with probably thousands of people passing by them having no idea the historical significance of these two cars.
Well, actually, I will jump in there real quick, Chris. The basement of the museum for a long time was closed to the public, and it was an invitation-only thing. So not a lot of people ever got down there. I got down there once, and you had to be invited. But the museum is currently closed. It's undergoing a big renovation. So I'm really anxious to see how they display some of those cars after this renovation is completed. So,
it's really fun when you guys are doing your shows. And I think we talked about this, Scott, and I think you said you're doing it again this year, is you guys are on the air, you guys have commercial breaks, you have things happening. And then while you're in a commercial break, because how many of you out there were watching the show and you're going, oh, you see a car coming up, and you go, oh, I want to see what this one looks like. And then of course, Scott goes, and when we return,
so, blame it on me. Go ahead.
But I'm saying they actually have a way, if you're on the website, if I'm not mistaken, that you could watch the live camera.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's with any auction. At Mecum.com, it's the live web stream of the auction. And so if, for example, if you have them side by side, one on the TV, one on your laptop, for example, when we're in commercial, you can watch what's happening to a car on the web. You won't get our commentary. You'll get the auctioneer leading the audience through what's happening with that particular vehicle, but you'll get to see that car and see what happens to it. And if you don't have that capability, a lot of times what we will do is, if there is a significant car that might sell for big money during the commercial break, we will try our very best to what we call roll that car back. And, while we were away just a few minutes ago, and literally it might have been 10 seconds ago, we'll try to show you that car and give you a brief synopsis of why we love the car and why it brought big dough.
One of the things that I find interesting too, I'm sorry, Randy.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Is when you have a car, let's just say I've got a 1957 Chevy. I want to find out what it's really worth. I go to your website and see what they've been selling for. And you can do a national search, see what the results were, and get a dose of reality. If you think your car is a $200,000 car, you got your specs, and you look at what's on your website, what has sold with the specs and the hammer price.
Right. And I'm glad you actually graduated from the Yugo to a 57 to hear that. Actually, that's part of mymecum.com, and you can sign up. It's free. All you need is your email address, and then you can go in and search results within the Mecum world, on what a 68 GTX has been selling for over the past. You can search, up to, I think, all of our auctions maybe 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But certainly more recently, and you can filter that search however you want to do that. So you're right, Bob. That's a really good tool to be able to use. And that, again, goes back to that realistic idea of what your car might be worth.
And I think it's also fun to sit there during those breaks because you run out the ones that maybe aren't the most popular cars to bring out, but you'll see different sets of wheels. And one time, I think you had a Corvette boat. It was like the back end of a Corvette and the front end of a boat, and it was on a trailer. And I mean, how often do you see something like that? It did not air, but I remember at the time, we were actually posting some of the stuff from that as kind of like an assist to those of you who, may have missed that. But just it's interesting to see what they end up doing with that. So.
It is. And, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you come to a Mecum auction, not just Kissimmee, but any of our auctions, chances are you will see something that you've never seen before. And if you come to Kissimmee, you might see something you didn't even know existed, quite literally. And that's why it's not just the biggest car auction in the world. It's the biggest car show that you'll ever go to. And it's so much fun.
So Chris, you go to the car shows. You're a car guy as well. You're walking through the massive amount of cars. Is there any time that you look at something and think, I got to start bidding on that one?
I have. I've bought a car from Mecum in Vegas a few years ago. I bought a big Plymouth Sport Fury 3 convertible, which is a great cruiser. Still in my garage. I bought a car at auction many years ago, a '87 Grand National, which was my dream car in high school. Regrettably, I sold that one a couple of years later. I wish I never had, because the prices on those have skyrocketed. Yeah. But yeah, the budget and garage space are always my two main issues. I would love to buy a lot of cars that we see at Mecum. Scott and I are always drooling over the various Porsches, especially air-cooled 911s that come across the block. So ton of great inventory. And yeah, I want a lot of stuff. I just have to be a dreamer like everybody else.
I like big cars, and I cannot lie. So Scott, have you ever done that before, where you've seen something or you wanted to bid on it? And how does that work, even if you wanted to, because you're on the air, you can't really be doing that while you're bidding. How does that work if it got to that?
Where there's a will, there's a will. If it came to, and I would say, I would go along with what Chris said. My two factors are budget and budget. I don't have the garage space, honestly, but if I really wanted to bid, and I have been close, I don't mind telling you that there have been a couple that I've really wanted to pull the trigger on. It just didn't work out. But if there's something that comes across the block, and we're on the air, it's happened before. John Craman did it, and he kind of, I let him do his thing, and he didn't comment for a little bit because he was working on buying a particular car. And I don't think he got it, actually, if memory serves. But if we want to stick our hand up in the air, they'll take our bid. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that the general rule is like, we can't comment on the car that we're hoping to bid on, because it might be perceived as some sort of influence one way or the other. So if we all have bidder badges, and we're all, ready to go if need be. But the idea is, if you want to buy something, first of all, you probably know ahead of time if it's coming. You just lay out while the car's on the block.
So we've had you guys on before, and we talked about how you and John have something shareable aside from cars, and you guys play in a rock group.
Well, actually, John does regularly. He plays in a band called Redline 7000. He's been together. It's a power trio, and they do classic rock and roll. And I've actually sat in with them at the McCacken show in Chicago a few years ago, just you know, jumped in for a couple of tunes. Uh, I've played in rock bands. I played in country bands. Right now, my main thing, other than playing on the worship team at my church occasionally, is playing in a big band, the Joy Swing Jazz Orchestra here in Indianapolis, and we play occasionally, 3 or 4 times a year. And then I have a small quintet that I play, straight American songbook stuff, Coltrane, Miles Davis, that sort of thing, for smaller gigs. And I play upright bass in that one as well.
I can't help but notice just to the left, right of you, left of us, you've got a couple of guitars there, it appears.
Yes, I do. On the far, whoops.
Other way. There you go. I do that all the time.
This is my MV Padula, built by a guy named Michael Padula out in Massachusetts. It's a 5-string fretless bass, and the one next to it is made by Keith Roscoe. Keith Roscoe basses in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I've had those for probably 20 years and love them. They're just so good. They're very different. And not just because one has 5 strings and one has 6 strings, but they are completely different in their tone and their playing characteristics.
And not
Chris.
to be outdone,
Yeah.
Chris. I didn't know this until just before the show when we were just setting our cameras and all that. And Chris started showing his. Let's see your collection, if you can.
So I got, the one you can see here is just pretty much just a basic Strat that I've had for a little while. But this is my kind of wall of good stuff. So up there on this guitar right here is a 87 G&L ASAT, which I've had since 87. I bought that new. This Takamine acoustic is my graduation gift from high school in 1988. I got this one in 95. I got this one in about 98, this Les Paul to 91 standard. And then this is my newest acquisition. This is just a Fender acoustic that I play a lot. It's got a built-in tuner and a built-in pickup. Both of these, actually all 3 of these guitars have built-in pickups, so they're pluggable. But I like to dabble. I was in a lot of garage bands when I was in college. Pink Floyd cover band, Grateful Dead cover bands. I like to jam out. I play a little piano too, just to dabble. It's gone down on the priority scale since my daughter was born, but I try to get back on there whenever I get a chance.
It happens. It definitely happens. So Scott, did you mentioned you also play in another band, but it's all guitar, right? You don't like suddenly pick up the flute or anything like that, or oboe.
No, it's all bass. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, just
this is for the trivia books. When I was in a lot younger, playing in the junior high and high school band, I played the bassoon. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Oh, that's
nice.
A
little bit of a change. Bassoon's a guitar.
Well, I actually played the bass basically the same time. I started 6th or 7th grade with both. So I just kind of gravitated to bass clef instruments. I play piano as well. And I have an acoustic guitar, but my main focus is the bass.
Do they ever put you on stage in between cars to entertain the group?
we want people to stay in the audience.
But you do a lot of auctions. Is there anyone that you in particular find as your favorite location?
I got to say Monterey, obviously, because it takes place during Car Week. And so to be up there in that atmosphere of the entire peninsula and doing a Mecum auction during that week is just so much fun. There's so much going on. Obviously, Mecum is our focus, but once it's only a 2-day auction, so it's a short one. But I'm up there the entire week, and it's the 2 weeks I look forward to most of the year are SEMA in November and Monterey in August.
And I would agree with Chris, just, for many different reasons. Car Week, absolutely, in Monterey is so cool. The venue for us is very different. It's unlike any other venue that we have. I mean, cars parked out on the 18th fairway at the Del Monte Golf Course. And the vibe at Monterey is so different than any of our other auctions. That's why I like it, because you'll see things there that, you won't see at Indy or Dallas or even Kissimmee. In fact, there are typically more Ferraris and Porsches than there are Camaros and Corvettes in Monterey. And that's why I like it. The weather is fantastic, generally speaking. It's that whole package, the car week, where we are, the weather, the California vibe. That's what does it for me.
Mm-hmm. The California vibe. There you go.
You remember that, don't you, Randy?
Yeah, I do. And he reminds me every time. I moved to Washington State 2 years ago. And hold on, let me see. Let's take a look outside and see if it's raining. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shuffling going on at Motor Trend. I don't think it really affects you directly at the moment, but Chris, especially you've been involved in so many shows like overhauling. I'm always curious when you see all these shows start saying, well, that's it for us. We've been on for a lot of years and now it's kind of gone away. Your thoughts as Motor Trend starts doing whatever it is it's doing?
Well, certainly production has been shut down. There's not going to be any new shows being made. Kindig Show has announced that they're wrapping it up. Overhauling finished up in 2020. Freiberger and Finnegan, what they're doing is all being shut down as well. So I think that you'll continue to see automotive programming on Motor Trend, but there won't be any new programming. What that means for the future, I don't know. I've always just kind of taken a let's wait and see attitude towards my career, and that the shows that I'm involved with, it always seems to work out. So I'm hoping that the same is going to continue to be true. But where Motor Trend is headed right now, as a new content production entity, I think that is over with. And so there's a lot of different outlets that will step into that void, I'm sure.
And one last thought. Bob and I were talking about this because when I moved up here, I got involved with the Pontiac Club up here, and I became president. So we talked a lot about how clubs right now are going through kind of a weird metamorphosis. It's like those cars are out there, the groups are getting older. The car people some of them are getting to a point where it's like, okay, I'm selling my cars, and other people are not quite sure about joining everybody as a club concept. I know, Chris, you're a member of Bob's club. Do you ever find that kind of thing happening on the auction block where people are still interested in certain cars, but because of age or something like that, it's different?
Well, yeah. First of all, it's I'm an honorary member of Road Kings here in Burbank, which Bob is a member of, and I love Road Kings, and I love the history of Road Kings, and I'm very proud to represent them. I'm also a member of Porsche Club of America. I'm a Mopar guy and a Porsche guy, probably 1 and 1A, but yeah, I think that there's representation from both sides. There's the hardcore buyer who wants to represent their brand or genre of car and wants to really be into it. And then there's also guys who are just like, they want to buy their cars and they want to remain anonymous and remain private. So I think the club atmosphere is as strong as it's ever been, but it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to be as into it and bring their cars out and interact with other car guys. Some guys just like to go in their garage or their collection and rub them with a diaper and look at what they've accomplished. And other guys want to get out there and run them and talk about them with other guys who are like-minded. So I don't know if there's been a shift in the attitude of club membership, but all I know is every time I get an email from the Road Kings, it's like, a lot of activities going on. They have their shows every year. So I think Road Kings is a good little example of the industry of the club scene being very strong.
Chris sounding like a new dad with the whole diaper analogy. Thank you for that one.
Yeah. Well, what we tend to see, and we're just trying to see if that is panning out in your world, is the demographics, the people buying versus the people selling. And you don't find the younger guys looking for the 55 Chevys, and the older guys are the ones getting rid of them.
It follows the age curve, right? I mean, you very rarely now see the Deuces and the 34s coming across. a lot fewer hot rods. And now it's even creeping into the Tri-5s and the era of the 50s. It's because the guys who are into those cars are getting older and becoming less involved in the hobby. Now you're starting to see, like I mentioned, the Grand National before, the G bodies and the Trans Ams and those cars now from the late 70s into the 80s. Those are becoming the hot ticket items because the guys who are now able to afford what their dream car was in high school are the primary the buyers. Now, of course, you're always going to have the muscle car genre is always going to be strong. You know, your Mopars and your Camaros and your Mustangs. Right. Those are always going to remain strong, both for the cars in their original forms and also cars that have been customized. But you're slowly seeing the older cars being aged out, where the cars that are now becoming the classics are more popular at the auctions because the genre is following the demographic.
Yeah, they grew up with a certain car, and that's what they're targeting.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or their family had cars that they want to get. Yeah. I think I heard somewhere where AMC cars are like suddenly really big.
Yep.
So
yeah, the niche cars are coming on too. You know, we see like you get a car like the Machine, which they only made in 1 year. Now those are like super popular because guys are saying, whoa, you know, when I was a kid and into cars, that seemed unattainable. But now it is attainable because I can afford it. So that's what's happening.
Absolutely.
I say it all the time, sometimes on the air, sometimes off the air, with apologies to the old soap opera. These are the cars of our lives. And a lot of it is nostalgia. And the theme song, I hear it in my head. But, you know, it's about what the guy down the street, what his dad was driving.
Right.
It's what my dad was driving. It's what the kid in high school was driving. And, you know, for me as a late baby boomer, that might mean one particular group of cars. But for a guy, you know, Chris's age or younger, in his 30s or 40s, that might mean something totally different.
Right.
You know? But it's all about nostalgia. It's all about the memories. I remember one story. We had a guy a number of years ago bought a 53 Pontiac, I believe, and he bought it for his father because that's the car that his father had when he was a kid, and the guy bought it and surprised him and gave it to him on Father's Day. And it was
how cool.
We had video of it after the fact, and it was such a cool moment that he was able to find the exact car, exact year, the right engine, the right color combination, the whole 9 yards. And that's what we're talking about. It's the memories and the nostalgia.
Yeah. That's why I have my 911. My dad grew up when I was growing up. My dad always had 911s. So when it came time for me to buy that type of car, I was like, well, I'm definitely going to get a 911. I've had it for 20 years now. I'm the second owner of the car, and it's the one car that I'll never sell.
Absolutely. No, I completely understand that. The first car I ever drove, when my father pulled over one day when I was 15 and said, "Okay, it's your turn," I went humana, humana, humana. And it was, I remember distinctly, it was a gold with a black top, 69 Catalina, which is pretty pedestrian, but still it was something that I said to myself, if I ever ran into that color combination, I would get it. And 35, 40 years went by, and suddenly I was poking around and found one in Montana and grabbed it. And every time I drive it now, I have this stupid grin on my face, and it just takes you back immediately to that kind of situation. And I know, Bob, you probably had enough cars that's somewhat similar.
Yeah, I don't know if you. The only thing that's eluded me is my dad had a 50 Studebaker bullet nose, or 51 Studebaker bullet nose 4-door. And I've always had a soft spot in my head for one of those. I just missed one. The local museum up here that was closing was getting rid of one, and I couldn't pull the trigger on it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
all right.
Definitely.
Well, guys, that'll wrap up this edition of the nostalgia version of the 2025 Mecum Preview here on the Talking About Cars podcast. If you guys like today's show, how about giving us a thumbs up on YouTube when we get onto that, and subscribe. Follow us, of course, on social media. There you go. Thanks for the demonstration, Chris. Facebook, Instagram, also LinkedIn, and new episodes, don't forget, drop Wednesday nights on both PowerTube TV and YouTube. If you miss them, you can watch by checking out video on demand online at watchpttv.com on the PowerTube app. Big thank you to our guests, the always fun Scott Hoke, Mr. Car Show guy at Indy, Chris Jacobs, our Cubs fan, and Southern California, and our own, of course, Hot Rod Bob, also in SoCal. I'm, of course, out here without sun in Washington State.
Yeah.
I'm Randy Kerdoon. We'll see you next time on the Talking About Cars podcast. So long, everybody.
Thanks, guys.